if I get up and the screen goes thin, what do I do? Last time I just shut it, opened it up. I don't know what to do with it. There's a fucking.
No, he just told me to be right back. It shouldn't go dead.
Oh.
It shouldn't go dead. You just keep your hands away from it.
No, it went dead when I just left it there for 10 minutes.
Oh,
It went to sleep. Yeah, that's why I say, how do you get it back?
You can just,
Touch
what
it.
you do, shut it and open it up and
Yeah.
it's back? Yeah, that's all you gotta do. Or sometimes that little block thing down there for the cursor, you just hit it, just come back. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the little thing at the bottom, you wouldn't do.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want. What do you want? You want to go out? I don't know what you want. What was I?
You said it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I know what she wants. She wants you to have an E-E-E-R. This is
I don't know what you want. What? No, she's just looking at it.
You got all this time? Let's go potty. I'll go potty. Come on, let's go.
Hello, Christina.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Steve. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah. Volume's really low too.
Mine or yours?
I'm having a hard time hearing you, but it could be on my end.
Well, hold on.
I don't have the best internet connection up here.
How about now? Is that a little better?
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
I'll stay right about there. I don't want to go all the way to the end.
I'm gonna put my headset on. That usually helps.
Okay.
Yeah, that's way better.
Oh, okay. Am I too loud now?
No, you're fine. I have to put my headset on. I can hear a lot better because we don't get good internet up here.
Ah,
We looked into getting an actual internet service run to the new house,
yes.
and they wanted $5,000 to make the connection.
You know, you're so far up on the hill, you ought to see about getting a tower put up there,
You know what? It's probably a pretty good idea.
especially with the 5G.
Yeah,
I think they need more towers closer together to handle it.
yeah.
Good evening, Bruce.
Good evening.
I'm Mary McGrattan from the council, and I'm just wanted to listen to
Oh,
your meeting, that's all.
oh, that's quite all right. Hello, Allison.
Hey Bruce, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. Yourself?
Hanging in there. This cold weather has been exhausting, as I'm sure you
Oh, yeah.
experienced.
The ice is the worst because the animals can't go out. That's
Yeah.
and it's pretty icy, but they were able to get out a little bit after the snow. But today they had to stay in for most of the day. They didn't
was-
like.
So wet.
Well, the ice is what's bad. They can take the rain a little bit, showers and things like that, but when they get the ice underfoot, the snow's pretty good, but that ice is just wicked for them. And you don't want them to fall down. They'll break a hip or get splayed out there, so that's not good. So we take our time with them, keep them in.
I spent the whole day fixing irrigation.
Irrigation.
Well, we grow all through the winter. We have 9 tunnels. And so whenever it's warm enough to run the irrigation, I try and run it. But the main line burst and I was able to fix that. And then one of our frost-free hydrants cracked the whole up the side. I never seen anything like it.
The wheat pole at the bottom must have plugged.
I had drained the whole line, like the well was off and the line was drained before that last cold snap. So,
But what you have down there is a plunger right down at the very base.
yeah.
And there's a little hole there. It probably had a little piece of sand in it or debris. So it didn't, even though you drained it back from there, from that point up, it probably didn't drain, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I even had, like, the spigot was up so that
Yeah, that should drain.
it wouldn't, like, I drained the whole line, I drained the well, and then I open all the spigots so that there's,
Well, at least you have a backhoe, you can dig it up.
yeah, wouldn't that be nice if I did?
Ah,
It was a soggy day.
oh yes, no doubt about it. Well, hello, Bill. Bill, your microphone is off if you didn't know that, or if you're all set with it.
Yeah, normally when I'm in the meetings, I turn it off.
Okay,
And
good to see you.
yeah, good to see you.
Hello, Russell.
There we go. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Okay. Let me see. I think we're waiting on Katie, Michael, and I think that's it, right? Katie Uhas and Mike Morelli.
Yeah, I just got a note from Katie.
Okay.
Oh, I think she's joined. There she is. Wait, stop talking. She's on right now. No, I'm kidding. I don't think she can hear us.
Oh yeah, there you are. Hi,
I
Katie.
see Mike Morelli's here too.
Oh, I see Katie. Hello, Katie.
Hi.
Hello. Is Mike here as well? I don't see him on the screen.
I see him and I see his name. I see
Okay.
his face.
Okay, well, at that stage of the game, I guess I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:01. And at this point, I'll do a roll call. Allison Angelini,
Present?
Russell Holmberg,
Present.
Mike Morelli,
Present.
Katie Uhas,
Present.
Bill Thorne,
Present.
Steve Martek.
Present.
Thank you. At this point, we'll have citizen comments. Is there anybody from the public who would wish to comment at this time? We did get a letter submitted by Rosemary Garska of 10 Pleasant View. Has everybody seen that? That was tagged to the agenda. Did nobody see it, or?
Got in late.
Anyway, it's a letter understanding what the Agricultural Commission's job is, but also looking for ways to improve the agritourism business in Ledyard, and giving examples like a list of what farms do in Ledyard and what great opportunities Ledyard has to offer, such as visiting horse farms or riding stables, trail riding, farm-themed birthday parties, and any of these activities make excellent educational visits for people. And I think that's one thing that, as the commission progresses and we mature, that's an area that we can really stress to bring Ledyard into the forefront of agritourism and to help the community at large. With doing that, you also have, people can learn on how to care for animals, the upkeep, what's necessary to have an animal, what you do with the byproduct of the animal waste. And the same thing with gardening, what you can grow, how to compost properly. And these are all activities that we have in Ledyard, and we have multiple people, multiple farms doing this activity. We have vineyards, and the vineyards also have opportunity for people to walk the land, enjoy it. And this again could increase the awareness of agriculture in this area in Ledyard. And it would also avail the people to enjoy the vistas that we have at these farms. Now, that being said, she also included a website of a portal that I'm sure some of you are familiar with, that the state of Connecticut has, where you can list your farm. And that again is listed on the public comments. Any other citizen comments? Having none, we'll go for a review of the prior minutes of the meeting. If there are no objections to this, I will dispense with the reading of the minutes. Having no objections, I will ask if there's any changes to the minutes as distributed.
Leave an old business under 4 and 5. It's got listed that our next meeting was supposed to be the 15th. We know it's not the 16th.
Actually, that is correct. I caught that as well. And Christina, I think, has updated that since then. So yes, that was a minor issue that I saw as well. And I believe that has been corrected. Are there any other changes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as distributed.
I'll second the motion.
May I have a second?
Mike Morelli, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Allison Angelini, I'll second it.
Okay, and at that case, since we have a motion that's been seconded, the minutes are accepted without exception. Moving on, we have the agricultural, the agreement. First of all, I just want to go back to our old business, or unfinished business. We have the agreement. We also have, I spoke with Roxanne, our blip is going into the Ledyard Events magazine. So that is, I think, one of the first steps that we have to enlighten the people in the town of Ledyard that the commission is active and we are here to help. We also have a draft of a questionnaire going forward. And I think that's our second point that we have to be concerned with. Because once we have that, I think that's going to identify the farms in town that are going to be, or the farmers who are actually interested in having the development rights purchased, or who want more information on the subject. And I think once we get that information, then we'll be able to really focus on other issues. Are there any comments? Yes, Michael.
The cooperative agreement with the state, should we not just move ahead with it? Even if, nobody's approached us that's interested, they may be interested in the future. And then, it would be one less step.
I think that's a good move that we could make. I think if nobody in the town is interested at this point, I think at that point we might be able to look at expanding our maybe jobs, what we can look into, and then also focus on that. But if we don't have anybody who is pressing us for that information, I do believe that we should have it on hand, have it ready. So if some farmer, even 5 or 10 years down the road, is interested, we have the information. But I think our main goal right now should be to just find out if anybody is interested. We'll go from there. Any other questions?
This is Bill Thorne. Just a question.
So, I mean, the parameters for this program is fairly defined, 30 acres. And then in addition, it's prioritized by, I guess, soil type. Russell, I think I saw your input there.
Mhm.
I mean, we ought to be able to, I would think, list those 30-acre farms and also prioritize them based on soil types and come up with, I don't know, half a dozen that maybe, I don't even know, I'm just guessing, half a dozen that maybe are even in the ballpark for this option.
If I may, I know, Russell, you sent a link up with the state as far as Ledyard with the soils and all that. And Mike Morelli, I believe you also did that. And if you check out for Ledyard, it seems to have very little prime farmland. I mean, there's a few spots along Shoeville Road. There, the Highlands was a great farmland parcel, but that's all houses now, so that's moot. But there's not a lot of farmland in Ledyard that is considered prime. You have a lot of rocky soils, and this is not to say that agriculture in Connecticut, in Ledyard, is doomed. By all means, I think you have animal husbandry, which could generally go on any type of soil. So it may not be prime farmland as far as agriculture, as far as crops are concerned, but it doesn't mean that even if we have parcels that are stony or rocky and really not good for much else, they are good for pasture land for llamas or goats or donkeys or horses or whatever else you have. So we do have farms. And another point is that I believe the Connecticut Farmland Preservation, and Katie, you can expand on this if you can, but I think there's also programs for the smaller farms under 30 acres. Katie, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I was just looking it up, actually. I was trying to refresh my memory. I think it's the Community Farms Preservation Program. But yeah, there's one for larger farms and ones for that are much smaller, but still good farmland.
Correct. Okay. So, I mean, even though it's not 30 acres, even though somebody may not have 30 acres, if they have 20 acres or something, I think it's still a viable option for them to consider to put their land into to sell the development rights on that.
So this is Bill Thorne. So Katie, some of these smaller options, less than 30-acre options, actually have you can sell development rights, or is there other things that you can do, not necessarily sell development rights?
I'm not sure. I just know that there's two different levels of the land preservation. One is for the traditional, like real big farmlands. And then there happened to be a lot of smaller farms that were kind of getting encroached with, building around it, but it was still good farmland. So they made like a different bucket for it that is for these smaller parcels of land that are still, good farmland.
This is Allison Angelini. I think they also take into consideration if a parcel abuts conserved land or prime open space, or if the owner is willing to sell them for, or if it isn't going to be extremely costly, that's factored in. There's a percentage of that calculated as well. So there are other things that factor in.
And another thing that factors in is what, how they rate the land. If it's prime or then just good, or when you get down to Ledyard soils where it's mainly rocks and good for goats, I don't think you're not going to make $1 million selling your development rights in Ledyard, I don't believe, on most of the parcels. There are some parcels that are absolutely prime, no doubt about it. But for the most part, you don't have those 200 acres of just perfect land.
Yeah, so this is Bill Thorne. I mean, so our pamphlet right now is that we're supposedly going to send out is, well, we might send out, is directed at the 30+ acres. But truthfully, I think what I'm sort of hearing is, and what I would like to see is, maybe understanding better the options for the smaller farms. And now maybe we don't have to dovetail it so we can get the brochure out for greater than 30 acres. But I think maybe the commission's focus ought to be, because the only reason I say is I think that Katie's pretty knowledgeable, and it sounds like this is all still evolving. Whereas the 30 acre plus option is been around for 30 years. I think that's maybe a focus for us, that we look at that smaller farms and figure out what their options are, and maybe get a second pamphlet out and mail it to those farms that are more apt to agree to, I guess, sell their development rights. I don't know if the less than 30 acres has that option, but what we can do. I don't know. It just, I think, I sort of feel like I would like to focus on some of those smaller farms. That's all I'm saying, I guess.
Well, thank you, Bill. That may be a good question to put on the questionnaire, is because I've spoken with Roxanne, and she said there's roughly 200 farms in Ledyard. And if we do a mailing to the 200 farms, we can kind of focus. We'll know how many acres they have. That's number one. We'll know how many acres they have if they're farms in Ledyard, because if they're listed, that's how we're going to get our mailing list. So we should know how many acres they have on there, but that's one area where we can find out if they're interested in some development rights.
Yeah, but if you mail that, this is Bill Thorne again, if you mail that pamphlet and you read through it, and you have less than 30 acres, you're going to throw it in the trash. That's.
Well, I hope not. Maybe that's one of the ways we ought to refocus on the questions on the pamphlet. I think, because the pamphlet's still in a draft form. It hasn't been sent out. So these are questions that we can address before it goes out. And that's an excellent question. And anybody else have a question? And I think we're going over for the old business there. I think everybody's read the PDF files on the agreement for the farmland preservation, the cooperative agreement for farms that Ledyard has, the Ledyard farmlands focus on it as well, and the locally important soil levels, and which when you read the maps, it's kind of very small portion of Ledyard, which are very important soil levels. Being said, does anybody have any comments on that?
Yeah, I just want to chime in. The email I sent out.
Russell Holmberg, by the way.
Sorry, Russell Holmberg, and so I sent an email to the group. I don't know if any or a piece of that made it to the minutes. I was just confused when I saw the soil map came through, and I could have been reading it wrong. I just pulled it up on my phone, and I was like, "Oh, the NRCS one that was sent to me were not the locally important soils." I know, just looking at our own farm, I was like, "Oh no, those aren't the right ones." So that's why I was like, "Let me just send that back out." I wasn't sure where we were going with that, but I know GIS has it, so I went through that, and then Web Soil Survey, which is quick and easy. Happily share the link for that, which is a taxpayer-funded soil map site. You can just click, where are the locally important soils, and it just pops right up there. So I felt a little forward sending that out, but the NRCS map didn't agree with what I knew from my own farm as far as where, and I could have been reading it wrong, but that's why I sent that out, just for some clarification, because it was a much smaller area when you looked at prime and workable soils within the town. So
yeah, and I think that's one thing that shows, and I think that's one thing that people have to be aware of, is that if you are selling your development rights, it's based upon the value of the land as well, and its importance for agriculture. But I don't want to dismiss that, even though it's not prime for agricultural use, it's not valuable as far as animal husbandry goes, or if somebody wants to have a herd of llamas in town, the stony soil is better with the sloping soils, because it keeps their hoofs in better shape. So being said, their development rights, if you sell them, you won't get as much money for most of the property that's in Ledyard. For your very important prime soils, you will, but for the most part, I think people have to be aware that just because somebody sold land and they got $5,000 an acre, they might say, wow, I get $5,000 an acre for Ledyard topsoil here, which is rocks. And I want to make sure people aren't misled by that as well. But thank you for the map and sharing it. It was helpful.
I had a question about the maps.
Mhm.
It's prime soils, and it's important soils. Those are what the state considers. And then is it different? Is locally important soils, which are less, I know, quality, is that an entirely different category?
Does anybody have the answer for that, for Mike?
Or is it just different names for the same things?
I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
Because I know some grants that you will consider may not be prime, but it may be locally important. And that is one of the criteria that you can put on some of these grants for smaller farms and grants. So I'm just wondering if there's a distinction.
I had the same question looking at those soil maps, and I was like, I think local is within the state was kind of my sense of it. My understanding is that you're competing at a statewide level for those monies. So it's not just, hey, this works in Ledyard, but if you were to pan out like the same map that I just kind of dialed in for Ledyard, just kind of roughly sketched out where Ledyard would be. If you were to pan out and catch the Connecticut River Valley, you would see square miles of land that just glows with prime. And so when you're putting into buyer development rights, you're going to be on a wait list behind all those folks. So I whether it's within the town or within the New London County, the people making the decisions as far as where the money goes to save those soils, my understanding is at the state level, and you're ranked against some of those bottomland soils. It's just going to be maybe a little tougher sell to get the monies out when they only have so much money to give. I could be completely wrong about that, but that's kind of my understanding. Whether or not wherever USDA draws the line, the funding's coming from the state, so you're kind of in competition with the rest of the state.
This is Katie. That sounds right on to me, Russ. But Mike, I'll double check with our land preservation for just some more clarity.
Okay, I hope that answers your question a little bit, Michael. Any other?
Just one question. This is Bill Thorne.
Yep.
You know, one of the things that we do control in the town, right, is open space.
Correct.
And I believe there's some tax advantages for that. You know, if they don't sort of feel they're qualified for the state program, I mean, you could sell a farm, as I understand it, as open, or not sell it, I'm sorry. You could designate as open space, get some advantage, and continue to farm it. That's not really something, that's something the town controls and, you know, isn't at the state, but I don't know, I'm just speaking out loud. So it seems like might be an option for people in town who maybe don't feel they meet their criteria, but want to preserve their land as you know, farmland / open space.
Comments?
We have friends that farm in New Hampshire, and I don't know the details of the program, but they use a conservation easements to help as a kind of in between. I know I was up there and there were snowmobilers zipping across your fields, you know, this time of year, and he's, oh yeah, it's a conservation easement, guys. Well, what's that about? Well, we were paid to let those people come through. They're allowed to run a snowmobile path through in the wintertime, and kind of as part of an open space. So I'm not sure. I don't know what analog this Connecticut has, or if there's something you can implement on a local level, but it's kind of the same thing. It was geared towards farmers to try to get some sort of shared use of their property. I don't know how it's written. I'm sure the uses are different depending on the parcels and everything else, but it's kind of seemed like a pretty, especially a good fit for them anyway. You know, it's like, yeah, we're not growing anything on it, and those guys can go across, or hikers or whatever. So just another option along the same lines.
I think the Tri-Town Trail does something of that nature too. Conservation easements, I'm not up on that totally, but going from Preston all the way to Groton, I think that's what they're looking to do when they go through properties is a conservation easement. I'm not, like I say, I'm not positive on that, but
They do. They have two easements on two properties, conservation easements that were issued by the town. I believe so. Is it Mary?
Right,
No,
but I don't
I
know
think it's
that
a
there's
tax
any
break, isn't
money
it?
involved.
Could be.
okay, but there's some benefit to the farmer there or landowner, I should say. Okay. I think we're all set there. Now we have, are there any more comments on the locally important soils in Ledyard? If not, moving on. I think we've already touched upon the short-term goals and long-term goals of this commission. I think the short-term goals are really quite obvious. It's what we're doing is getting the information out, first of all, to the Ledyard Events magazine, and then we're going to follow up with a questionnaire targeting the farmers and seeing, number one, whether or not they're interested in preserving or selling their development rights, and then we'll go from that point. The questions, the questionnaires, we do have some out. If you find any more questions or wish to present different ideas, feel free to email me. I can obviously share them, and we'll go from there. And then once we get the questionnaire written and then mailed out and get the returns, we'll have a better understanding of where we stand or where the farmers stand in this town as far as development rights being sold. Any comments? Is there any other old business or unused business to come before the committee at this point?
Under that inventory of the farmland properties,
Yes.
the town planner is now, I guess, getting requests for proposals to redo the GIS mapping in town. Now, I spoke with her, and what I did is I submitted a list of 490 properties and all of the farms. And if you go on the GIS map, you will see it's got the different layers.
Correct.
And I asked if it was possible to add that layer to it.
Oh,
The reason for that is I worked with the last town planner, and we consolidated all of the open spaces owned by all the different conservation entities. We had it all put together. The reason for it is we used it for planning to see what is adjacent to something, what could possibly be a greenway. And that could also help us because then you can overlay the map of the prime soils. You can overlay it with open spaces to see which places. So when it comes time for applying for grants and stuff like that, we can look at different things. It would just help us in the long run. It would also, I think, help for planning purposes.
yeah, especially with the mapping and the layers on it. That makes a huge difference.
So this is Bill Thorne. So the 490 list is pretty rock solid because of the, the tax implications and all. But there's another list that's just farms. Is there any way we could, that aren't on that 490 list, are there ways we can do that, or is that too complicated, do you think?
I gave her a list of the farms and the 490s properties.
Okay.
Both of them, yes. And she said she would try to get it included in the proposal.
Now, excuse me, Mike, are most of the farms under 490 anyway now or not?
I couldn't say.
Because I would think that
I
most
don't
of
know.
them, that might be a question that I might have to ask you because
The lists that we have, we could cross-reference them and find out.
Yeah,
But
would
I
think
don't-
most
I
people
don't
would be on 490 if you're a farm. Okay, that's great.
Actually, the list of farms is larger than the list of 490 farms. It's don't know why, other than Allison, are you in the 490 program?
Yeah, we should be on both lists.
Okay. I know like the Knowles down the street here, they're on the farm list, but not on the 490 list. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
the person who would know all of that information is the assessor.
okay.
She would have that list.
Thank you very much, Ms. McGrattan. Any other comments? Okay, at that point, we'll move on to new business. Is there any new business to come before the commission? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Mike Morelli.
May I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it, Russell Holmberg.
Okay. All in favor of adjourning the meeting? Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, this meeting is now closed at 6:29. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Ms. McGrattan, for sharing our commission meeting.
It all.
Good.